Let's go ahead and just hit that sexy little record button. And I got these fancy graphics, and it's all thanks to you, of course.
Oh, you are welcome. I hope you enjoy the graphics. I wanted to help spruce you up a little bit.
Well, I appreciate it. I
Good.
appreciate it a lot. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the OMB podcast. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope doing well. And today I am once again joined by John the Flickpick. How's it going, John?
It's doing good, man. We're here on this lovely afternoon. We're going to talk about some movies. I'm excited.
Oh, you should be, especially after we just finished, what, a 2-hour episode of your podcast?
An hour and 40 minutes.
Okay.
But hey, it was a magical time, and I hope you enjoyed it.
I did. No, it was a lot of fun, a lot of great discussion, good questions. And speaking of that, I would say if you are listening to these podcasts or watching this podcast, please stay tuned to Patreon, Subscribestar, and also for YouTube memberships, that membership section over on the community tab, because whenever we have a podcast, I'm going to leave a Q&A section open where you can ask any and all questions of either me or of John. We didn't have any questions this week because it is brand new, something that I don't normally do on the podcast. And so new feature, new thing. Hopefully, if you're listening, you can start to add some questions in the future. But with that being said, today we're going to just talk about some movies. So, John, what you been watching?
Oh man, so this week or last week I did see Birds of Prey. Okay. I saw Sonic the Hedgehog. There's a lot of this is sort of the dead zone of the year, right? Mm-hmm. This is where like a lot of crap is. There's like Fantasy Island, which I'll never watch. But those are the two major films. Now I'm really looking forward to some new Blu-ray movies I have. That's what I'm coveting right now. That's what I'm waiting to watch.
Okay. Yeah. And actually, thank you very much, because I finally got on one of the lists that you sent me and was able to request, get this, Cats. That's right, everybody.
Yay!
I got to request it. I don't know if I'll get it, but I don't think a lot of people will be requesting it. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I get Cats.
Yeah, that made me want to purr.
Yes. And I also requested 1917 from that group as well. And so that one I think will be a little bit harder to get, because one of the best films of the year, arguably. One film, though, that is on the way is Midway. And I've had a couple people ask me that, if I'd ever seen it, and it was available, luckily, still from Lionsgate. So that copy should be coming in this week. I'll review it and give my thoughts on it. Did you see Midway?
Yeah, I did. It was a funny story. By the way, I requested all of those same titles as did you. So let me know if you get yours.
Okay.
I did see Midway. The funny thing is, I went to see Parasite at one theater, and then I went to the next theater to see an early screening of Midway. So that was my double feature.
That's right. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. And the most I can say about the film Midway is it's a movie.
That's what I hear. I hear that it's fine. It's something groundbreaking. The CGI is not that great, but most people were overwhelmingly pretty positive about it being historically accurate.
Yeah, it's a Roland Emmerich movie. It's okay. It's got a lot of like cliche stereotype characters, like the one pilot. His name's like Dickie. And he's like, yeah, you see here, I'm going to go over here, I'm going to fire a plane, you see? And he talks like that the entire film.
Well, that just sounds like a blast.
That was the most intriguing aspect of that entire movie. But yeah, let me know. We'll have to talk about it after you watch it on Blu-ray.
Oh, absolutely. We'll be doing for sure. And you talked about a couple of films that you have watched this week: Sonic the Hedgehog, Birds of Prey. Let's start with Birds of Prey. Let's start with
not.
So I have only allegedly, of course, seen about half of it, and so far I don't get why anyone would want to waste their time with it. What were your thoughts on it?
I don't know why anyone wasted their time writing it, directing it, filming it, or releasing it. The thing I wanted to say was, you just knew that movie was going to be a mess, because not even marketing could get their stuff together to call the movie what it should have been called, which was Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. And then when they saw the box office numbers coming in, or trickling in, or should I say, then they switched the title at the theater, and it just goes to show you what a mess of a movie it was. It's not good. It's just like, you take Harley Quinn, who's this really bombastic character, and you make her do all these really boring, uninteresting things throughout a 2-hour movie.
Yeah. All for a freaking egg sandwich too, man. Yeah,
she loves sandwiches, and it's just like the Birds of Prey, that whole thing culminated the last like 14 seconds of the movie.
Yeah.
So it was a mess. It really was just a mess of a movie. I think something like that actually would have worked better as like a mini series.
Okay, I got you on that. since you have seen the entirety of the film, there's been a lot of, criticism of the movie because of the way it was promoted, especially by actors Ewan McGregor and others, saying that there seemed to be some political tones to the overall film, that it seemed to be pushing a, anti-misogynistic message of sorts. Did you get that from the rest of the film overall, or?
Yeah, I think if you wanted to look for that agenda, you can find an agenda in any movie you watch, right?
Yeah.
There was a few tones of like woman empowerment,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, we can do this because men, but I don't think it was that heavy handed.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And I think I always like to get people's thoughts on films that I have either not seen or that I might have a different view of, because the half that I have seen, it's like, to me, it's like getting hit over the head with it. But that's because I'm looking for it. I think that having that perspective of, if you're not looking for it, you're not going to experience it all that much. I think that's an important thing to tell people, because there might be some people that are still on the edge of whether they want to see it or not. But I don't think that either our reviews are going to push people to go see it. But
you're missing nothing if you skip over that movie.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of a film that I think you're fine skipping over, but a lot of people, including my subscribers, including a lot of people, including John too, Sonic the Hedgehog. I was not a fan of this film. I gave this film a C+. I felt that it was too much of a kid's movie for me personally. And I like family films. I like films that are able to be a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more adult entertainment value to them. And I didn't think Sonic the Hedgehog had enough of that. And also, I didn't find a lot of the stuff that Jim Carrey did very funny. And a lot of people did. So what are your thoughts on Sonic the Hedgehog? Because I know that you liked it a lot more than I did.
I think Jim Carrey in that film was more creepy than funny, which is, I guess, why I found it funny. But I just hated. Once again, I hate when they take crazy cartoon video game characters and they put them in like a small rural town in the U.S. to set as the backdrop of the movie. I just find that so uninteresting. I thought they could have done more as far as like a visual aspect. Like when you play Sonic the game, right? You have all these cool like side-scrolling video game scenes, and he does all these loops and like just cool stuff. I thought there was room to include visuals like that in the movie, but they just sort of shoot it like a standard movie, and I thought that was kind of like a missed opportunity. But I agree with everything you said. I don't disagree, but I was pleasantly surprised it wasn't a complete mess.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people feel the same way. I can't tell you how many comments that I've gotten, both positive saying, hey, I respect your opinion, but I think you're wrong on this because of this reason. And then I've also gotten those hardcore fans. You know how every movie that exists, there's always a hardcore fan base. And if you don't love it, they go after you. They just they call you out. They hate you, and they show that hatred by typing on their keyboards.
Have you ever reviewed a Marvel movie? Yeah.
When I had reviewed Endgame, because I was one of the few originally who was very critical of the movie. I thought Endgame was trash as far as narrative goes. I got so much hate for it. Same thing happened with Aquaman too. I didn't think Aquaman was the best thing since sliced bread, and because I was even somewhat critical of the film, DC people just went after me too. And it's amazing how these fan bases just will go after you if you don't like it.
It's blind love. It's blind love. Yeah. And then they come to their senses like 4 years later, and they're like, oh yeah, that movie wasn't that good.
Yeah. And this was a point, speaking, back to Sonic, that we brought up on John's podcast, was if this film had been completely animated, I think it probably would have worked better, because I think, one, Jim Carrey could have done a lot more with the character being more cartoonish than he already was, and could have actually, towards the end of the movie, he almost adopts a different voice that's like deeper and more guttural, and it sounds more like the Dr. Robotnik from the games and everything else. And I kind of wish that had been there and established earlier on.
Yeah, I don't know. I have this feeling that they did a lot of reshoots for that movie, and I think he switched things up for those reshoots.
Okay.
That's my theory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that if they had done it fully animated, that it would have been, one, more consistent, and two, I don't think they would have had the same issue with the design flaws. I think that the design flaw was, I think this was their mindset, was, oh, this is going to be in the real world. Let's base this off of what an actual hedgehog might look like.
Yep.
And that's how it's going to work. And then, of course, luckily, the fans said, screw that it's not Sonic. And the studio actually listened and changed. And with that point, Do you think because of what happened with Sonic that more studios should probably listen to their fans when there's criticisms like this?
Yes and no. It's
Okay.
kind of a scary, isn't that kind of scary that people have that power now
Hmm.
based on Twitter? Isn't that kind of a scary thing? I think sometimes it's good, but when you influence the overall vision of an artist, like a real movie, like not Sonic the Hedgehog, right?
Mhm.
Like we'll take something like a Nolan movie, right?
Mhm.
Let's say Nolan released a movie coming out and people were like, "Oh, I don't like the actor playing that role." And then they go back and change it for the sake of pleasing people.
Yeah.
I think when you start trying to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. So in that extreme case, no. But when you make nightmare fuel like the Sonic design, yes, that it. But the other thing is like, how did the studio not have a test screening to
Mhm.
figure that out like 2 years ago?
That's a great question. And to be honest, I think they knew it was going to flop. I think they just were like, hey, this is a film. It's going to not really make any money no matter what we do with it. So, hey, here's a trailer. Maybe we can gin up some interest. Maybe we can break even. But, let's see what we have here. And then the reaction was so negative. They were like, okay, we can't lose that much money, right? We can lose a little money.
Yeah.
We can't lose that much money. And I think that may have been what influenced them. But yeah, I think you have a fair point. We don't want to have the power of the fan influencing things like acting, actor choices in certain films, like with Nolan. But I think that's a very specific example, right? Because Nolan is a proven director, always has great actors chosen, always has very solid scripts that he interacts with. Good screenwriter. Sometimes he even gets involved in the screenwriting process too. But I do think that there's something to be said for the power of the fan, because fans are consumers and fans consume product. And I think that fans should have an input on what kind of product is being put forward. Especially, I go more on the lines of thinking of things like Star Wars, for example, where it's very obvious that the corporate overlords at Disney wanted to push a certain direction with the movies, while at the same time saying, I don't care what the fans want. I don't care what the fans are interested in. And I think that's what led to that Disney trilogy that really just decided, hey, we don't need the fans anymore. And guess what? The fans said, great, we'll leave, which has led to films like Solo losing money and has led to The Rise of Skywalker being one of the lowest grossing Star Wars films, is now the second lowest grossing Star Wars film other than Solo, which lost money.
See, that's what it takes for studios to learn. It takes things like that until they step back and say, "Oh, we weren't doing it right the first time." But it's just bizarre. You think with all the social media, all the YouTube videos, that the screenwriters, the marketing team, the corporate overlords, as you call them at Disney, would just watch 10 minutes of this stuff and say, "Okay, this is what people want. Why don't we sort of go that direction?" And it's baffling how blind they are to that.
Yeah.
It's just odd. So yeah, I agree. I think they should listen when it comes to stuff like Sonic or things that have a heavy-handed fan base. Yeah, just listen to the audience and give people what they want to see. Those are the people paying to see your movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like as you said, when it comes to original concepts, original stories, maybe even indie genre type things, obviously, I think full creative control is the only thing that can keep those films going. And I think it's the best thing for those films. But when it comes to the bigger budget films, when it comes to films that are based on source material, I still just remember, and I don't know if you had been following this at all, that Kathleen Kennedy, president of Lucasfilm, at one point in an interview said that, well, the reason why the movies ended up being the way they were, with not really making a whole lot of sense, is because we had no source material when we took over Lucasfilm.
Oh, she's insane. She's insane.
And so everyone in the EU community that have all these novels and comics that have existed since the 70s were like, no source material. You could have done this story. You could have done this story. And the excuse was, we had to come up with brand new ideas and brand new concepts because we had nothing to go off of. And now you have things like the Bob Iger book that reveal that, no, actually George Lucas gave them scripts for a new trilogy, gave them scripts for what they could go with. Now, obviously, they decided to say, thanks, George, we'll take them. We're not going to actually use them now, so we own them now, but we're not going to actually do anything. And some can argue, right, should they have gone down the route with the midichlorians, which he wanted to do? Should they have maybe listened to him more so? But I think that at the end of the day, when it comes to fan bases, I think fans deserve to be listened to. As Sonic the Hedgehog, I think, proves a great example. Sonic the Hedgehog would have been a box office flop. It would have been a box office failure. And yet now, look where it is. Last time I checked, it was at according to I have this whole Excel sheet chart, which I think you've seen a couple times in my videos,
Oh, many times. Yeah.
and it drives you crazy because of all the numbers.
I know, it makes me tired. I'm like, I feel like I have to be a mathematician to keep up with it.
And so in there, it's about a week away from making its money back. And that means that after it would have taken only 3 weeks for it to make all the money back, which it costs, well over 150 million plus with marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, to make that back in a few weeks is pretty impressive. And that means anything it makes after the fact is net gain profit. And guess what? It has not gotten an actual release in China because of coronavirus. So
Oh, wow.
there is if that ever clears up, or however that works out, you could have even more cash coming in to the studio because of that.
We're talking about Sonic?
Sonic, yeah.
Yeah, that is great. Yeah, I wonder if they'll just wait a few months and then actually finally put it out in theaters over there. Yeah, that's isn't that mind blowing? Like Sonic, the Sonic movie. You know what? I'm actually excited to see a sequel now, because I think now they're gonna take it more serious and be like, okay, let's go big or go home for the sequel, because people will actually come out and see it. Or do you think the interest will still be there for a second movie?
Yeah, you see, I think the sequel will not be as successful, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, people might not like my opinion, but I think my opinion will actually end up being vindicated when the sequel doesn't do as well. Because when you make a film that is more for like a kid's movie and not a general family film that everyone can enjoy, you might have those families that are being, those kids that are dragging their parents to go see it, but you're not going to have the people like our age that are Sonic fans from the games, as many of them, I think, coming back for it again for a sequel.
Well, I say this. They made like 3 or 4 Alvin and the Chipmunks movies. Those were all atrocious and somehow made a lot of money, because little kid movies with CG characters, they make money. That's what I'm telling you.
That's true. That's true.
It's proven success.
And the one thing I'll say to that is that those were always kids' movies. Those were never supposed to be anything else other than that demographic. So that was never going to bring in teenagers or adults in to go see it. Sonic, on the other hand, was, at least as far as initial interest goes, was more of a bridge, gapper, right? Where it was, these are the Sonic fans who are in their 30s and 40s, right?
Sure.
Who played the games. Also, it's going to bring the kids in. And I don't think it's going to have as broad of an audience for a second film, right?
Well, maybe the second film will fix the mistakes that you disliked about the first movie.
Could.
And try to reach that older demographic with some undertones of like more adult humor, which I think they could do. I think they might do. So
you know what? I can tell you this right now, and I hope they're watching and listening to this right now. I can guarantee that Sonic 2 could be one of the highest grossing video game films of all time by making one change.
What's the change?
Ryan Reynolds is Sonic.
Oh yes, yeah. Just make Ryan Reynolds every little CG character you can come up with. My Little Pony, Ryan Reynolds. That's fine.
Actually, do you know what? To be honest, yes, that should happen. I want a My Little Pony film with Ryan Reynolds as the voice.
Yeah, I want Nicolas Cage to voice Sonic. That's my dream. That's my hope. But that's all. That have him or John Travolta.
Oh my god. Ooh wee.
Ooh wee. I'm good looking.
I gotta poop. Oh Lord. But yeah, so Sonic the Hedgehog. So again, film that a lot of you I know love, but I think get Ryan Reynolds for that sequel and I will come back. That was what will bring me back to it.
I'll come.
I know you'll go back to it. Another film that I don't think either of us have seen, but I kind of want your thoughts on. And it's a new release, and it's the first official release theatrically under the new studio name 20th Century Studios, because Disney, of course, has had to drop the Fox name, not for reasons that you would expect, of course.
Yes.
But Call of the Wild, have you seen it? Do you plan to see it? And what are your general thoughts?
I think if you want to watch a CG creature movie, just go watch Sonic. The thing is, that looks like such a home Netflix movie to me.
Mm-hmm.
It just really does. Nothing sells me on wanting to go see that. It looks like a complete disconnect with a CG dog, which is just like, why did you make him look like a cartoon character dog? And Harrison Ford. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go see it anytime soon. I
Yeah,
really don't.
and guess what? You're not alone because barely anyone went to go see it. It's only made
Yeah.
$40 million worldwide so far after its opening weekend. It was made for a $125 million production budget,
Ugh.
which means it cost around 175 with marketing. The film is set to be probably around $100 million loss when everything is said and done.
Oh, wow. Well, it deserves that, and that'll teach them a lesson.
Yeah.
Nothing looked good. Nothing was compelling about that. Like, what did you see in that trailer that made you say, "Oh, I want to go see that movie"?
Harrison Ford, to be honest. To be perfectly honest, Harrison Ford actually looks like he gives a damn in that trailer. And it's very rare that you get a performance from Harrison Ford where he actually doesn't just phone it in. But as soon as I saw that CGI dog, I said, okay, no, I'm out. I'm not seeing this.
I completely agree. That was my exact thoughts too. And it's just like, out of all the things I'm sure Harrison Ford gets pitched, why did he pick this?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of movies that he does where you're like, really? Did you really need the money that badly?
Like, what do you mean? Which movies?
There's one film called Morning Glory. Starring what's her name? She was the Queen Bee in Mean Girls. Rachel McAdams.
Yeah.
Rachel McAdams.
Well, he also did the voice in like Pet's Life 2 of some old dog on a farm. Because we were watching that, and I was like, "Whoa, is that Harrison Ford's voice? Why is he doing this?" It's like he doesn't need money.
Oh my goodness!
I'm just looking forward to Indiana Jones 5.
Yeah, and I feel like sadly with Call of the Wild 2, that's something that it could have been a hit. What happened? And I want your thoughts on this. What happened to having actual real animals in these types of movies?
What happened to having real movies? I don't know. It's just, I mean, I think they looked at it and they said, "Oh, it'd be easier with a CG dog." And I think audiences are just so numb to CG anymore.
Yeah,
they don't care. Maybe, I don't know. I really don't know. The funniest thing about it though is if you watch some of the behind the scenes footage of the guy in the mocap suit playing the dog, he's like crawling around on his hands, and you have Harrison Ford talking to him, and it's the funniest thing. I wish that was the movie.
I kind of want to. I hope. Oh man. So when eventually that gets a release on video, on home video,
yeah.
If I get a form for that, I am submitting it because I want to see that behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's the best little behind the scenes thing I've ever seen.
Oh lordy, gosh, just seriously, I'm kind of wondering like how much of it is backlash because of you remember how there was that big controversy with the film about the dog, and there was this like behind the scenes footage that PETA went crazy about because the dog looked like it was in danger.
Oh yeah. Maybe that could be it. That could be a reason.
Yeah. And it was like, and then you find out later that that wasn't all the footage and that the dog was totally safe the entire time because these crazy people are, just wacky and just can't understand reality. But it kind of makes me wonder, is that where we are now? Are we now done with Milo and Otis and Homeward Bound and like those types of movies where you have these actual, even Marley and Me used a lot of, real life animals for a lot of their scenes too. So do you think we're done with that? Or do you think we're going to start to, I'm hoping that because this film is set to flop, that they fall away from just using CGI creatures with real life people. But what do you think?
Probably.
Yeah.
I think they're going to step away from the hanging out with my pet going on a journey movie for a while. The other thing I was thinking, why didn't they use real lions for the Lion King live movie?
Or how about this? Why did they call it a live action movie when it was completely CGI?
Yeah. Or why didn't they make this dog look like a real dog, like they made the lions look like real lions? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like they should have taken the ideas in this film where they make the dog have like big cartoon eyes with more expression on his face, and they should have implemented those things into the Lion King live action movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. I think actually no, I don't agree with that because they should never have made the other Lion King movie ever in general.
But yeah, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, if you had to do it that way, make it more cartoonish, at least then it might be entertaining instead of being the bland, soulless piece of crap that somehow made $1.5 billion that the Lion King was in 2019.
I agree.
Yeah. But yeah, same thing with me, Call of the Wild. That CGI dog, very, very distracting. I have no actual desire to see it, and I'm glad that it is set to lose money. So,
Yay.
yeah, a couple of stories that have come out over the last week or so. Let's start off with the one that you might not know as much about. So I get this source from Bounding into Comics, which is a very great website for pop culture news. John F. Trent, I've been on some live streams with him before. He's a great guy. And it's about this new push in Star Wars novels. And basically the new push is going to be called The High Republic. Have you ever followed Star Wars Old Republic or Star Wars novels or anything like that?
No, when it comes to Star Wars, I'm strictly the movies. The movies are all I know about Star Wars. I've never dove any deeper than that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And that's something that I was there too. You know, I started off with the prequels as a kid. Eventually that led me to the originals, and I realized how much better the originals were than the prequels. And then it wasn't until about probably a year ago, that year and a half actually at this point. Wow, I can't believe it's been that long. Very close to the beginning of the YouTube channel, where all of a sudden everyone was like, "Oh, if you like this or you don't like this, you gotta read this. You gotta check out this character." And then I started to dive into these characters called Thrawn, and read this Thrawn trilogy, and started to dive into these other characters, and it was just awesome. I was like, "Wow, I can't believe that Star Wars actually has all of these amazing characters and amazing stories that have never been put onto the big screen," which just makes watching the sequel trilogy that much more frustrating, because you have all these new characters that no one cares about, that are so lifeless, that have terrible arcs, when you have this rich bit of source material that you could have used in the process.
What is the timeline of the novels that you speak of?
All right, so basically this is what we have going on. So Star Wars announces brand new publishing initiative called The High Republic, and so from what I gather, it's set 200 years before the events of the Phantom Menace in an era called the High Republic. So Old Republic era is usually in like the thousands of years prior to the events. So now we're getting closer to the films, so getting closer to the prequel movies, basically, with this new set. But the controversy is that they released this via video. They released this announcement via video, and in there was a board that was on the background. And on the board, you have a few different things that are talked about. So Vice President of Franchise Content Strategy, James Wow, made it clear in the announcement trailer that diversity and representation were and are the focus of the initiative. Not a part of it, the focus of the initiative. He says, "We put together a really unique writer's room. We had really diverse voices with very different opinions about Star Wars. We all love Star Wars, but we all come from very different places." And then on the little blackboard, you see in there, it says, in fiction, it has under that category that they want diversity under there. And then for Star Wars wishes, you see representation and diversity as one of their key points. So as someone that hasn't read the EU novels, as someone that is not really into the Star Wars community nearly as much, what are your thoughts about them pushing this new initiative where their main focus is going to be on pushing diversity and representation in books?
I think on that big whiteboard, they should have had "tell a good story." You should start with the story, and if diversity and things come into play to help carry that story, then yeah, sure, do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But to make that the main focal point is just it's obviously 2020. I expected nothing less, I guess.
Yeah. And there's also just a lot of other things that were in this video. So obviously they're talking about fiction, but here's the first category. It says authentically lived in, surprise, diversity, actual ending. I do agree with that point. It is nice.
An actual ending.
It is nice to have actual endings with things. Feelings, relatable characters, sweeping epic. Okay, so a couple of those things, yeah, I can agree having in a story for sure. But then you have relatable characters, and you know that what they mean by that is diverse representation characters, right? That's the focus. And then in the middle of it, they have Star Wars with a little heart next to it. The very first point under Star Wars, not pro-war.
Why? Why is that in there? What is happening? Everything's so neutered and numb and sterile and bland and afraid.
Yep.
Like you get regurgitated baby food in a blender. That's what we're consuming nowadays. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing with an edge.
Yep.
Oh man. Okay. Well, hey, does that take all your excitement away from any future Star Wars properties coming from Disney? Absolutely.
For the novels? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Right. All this High Republic, High Era stuff. Yeah. Why would I want to watch this? Especially when further down on that same list, no single main character. So they don't want any stories with single main characters. So every story is going to be focused on just groups of people, all from diverse backgrounds, working together. And that's, of course, remember, going back to what I said originally, their main focus is going to be on representation and diversity. And having that whole no single main character is absolutely feeding into that dynamic. And that's going to push readers away for any, at least as far as like hardcore readers go, that's going to push them away to never read it. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having some supporting main characters. I mean, Han Solo is a
Yeah.
supporting character. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Have whatever represent it that way, but why can't you have one main character? That's the simple basic premise of great storytelling 101.
Mm-hmm.
You have one character. You have one character that you carry through with a trilogy or series or a story. The fact that they're not even going to take the time to focus on that and split it up between 27 other characters, whatever. I mean, I don't know. I care less than I did before, I suppose.
Yeah, and I guess their mindset might be, oh, well, Game of Thrones did it, right? Because Game of Thrones in the novels, right? It has it broken down. Every chapter, it's not even really chapters, but every section is from a different perspective, from a different person. And there is no actual, I guess you could say, one main lead. There's all of these people that are all supportive. But I think that even people that read the books would say that there are certain characters that win out in the end, that are more interesting than others, and almost take on that role as being the main character, even though there are these great supporting. And as you mentioned, right, in the original stories, you have Han Solo, Chewbacca, Princess Leia. Obviously, even in Luke Skywalker's own story, you have that major plot point with, Darth Vader as well. And I think that having a single main character, or at least having a central focal point, is kind of needed in a lot of stories, especially Star Wars has always been known for that, of having main focuses on certain people.
Skywalker, you need that heartbeat. You need the thing that ties it all together, the purpose, the glue that holds it. And the other thing is, hey, no worries. Even if you had a main character, we're not pro-war, so there's no conflict in the Star Wars story. We all just sat around with the Ewoks, eating, whatever they eat, tree bark. I don't. But so that it doesn't matter. Even if you had great characters or you had one central character, there's no conflict.
Nope.
We got rid of conflict.
Yep.
So
can't have that. Can't have that. And they still say a space and lightsaber battles. That's all fine, but as long as we're not pro-war. But here's the other thing too: is like, I understand not wanting to say war is good, but the fact that on your agenda you have to spell out, well, we can't be pro-war. We can't have any type of messaging. But then all of a sudden it's, oh, but we need to have diversity and we need to have representation, right? So we're fine pushing certain agendas, but we also want to, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, so no empire. There's no empire anymore because they're a dictatorship, right? And war is how they resolve what they want and take what they want. But the whole message of Star Wars to begin with was, it wasn't pro-war. It was about peace. It was about doing what's right. It wasn't about having a dictatorship with the empire. So really, I mean, it had a great message.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone's complaint ever in any Star Wars movies was, oh, that was too much war. That was too violent.
Because also, what is it called?
Star Wars.
It's called Star Wars. And yet, what's even better is I just found another quote from this dude who is obviously clueless. He says, "Golden age where there is much more peace and calm in the galaxy." So we're calling it the High Republic. The description that we've used for the Jedi of this era is that they are the Jedi Knights of the Round Table.
So what is the conflict?
I'm sure they're going to have random, like, little mini conflicts all throughout, I guess. Someone says it's a bit of the Wild West, New Frontier. We see a different kind of Jedi that patrols the frontiers and is more of a Texas Ranger.
Isn't that what they're already doing with The Mandalorian?
Yeah. So apparently they're just taking, but the big thing here is that they're taking away any major scale background war or background conflict out of it and making it localized and making it more about peace.
Sounds really anticlimactic.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, when I think Star Wars, I think big scale, I think epic, I think some kind of underline. It doesn't mean the main plot throughout everything has to be war, but there should be some kind of underlining issue building to something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
especially if you're setting it in the past, right? You can have those elements. If you want to go future, like if you want to say, let's go past the Skywalker saga, let's go after the events of Rey, where there is now more peace in the galaxy. Like I can understand that to a certain extent, but even during the time in which the Empire falls, as we saw from the transition from Return of the Jedi to Force Awakens, there's still the remnants that remain, right? There's still that leftover pieces. And I feel like that's always kind of got to be there because things don't just become peaceful and then everything is fine, you know?
Yeah, I don't. The whole thing sounds like a mess.
Yeah, it does.
It does. Nothing about it really sounds appealing. It sounds like.
So are you going to go read some High Republic era novels now?
No, never. No, I'm not. No, I'm good. I'll pass on that.
I would recommend Old Republic stuff though, man. It's pretty damn good. Thrawn. If you want to start anywhere, look up the Thrawn trilogy, the original Thrawn trilogy. It is beautiful.
I'll do that immediately after this.
You
podcast.
should look it up on Audible. Get the audiobook version because then it's even easier because you get to listen to it.
I listen to podcasts about wrestling.
Well, then you'll listen to books on tape about Star Wars then too.
As long as they don't have any conflict, I will.
Yeah. All right, and then the last story to talk about today is about the leaks, some I guess you could say, but we had some footage come out. So we had that first test screening footage revealing the new Batman suit with Robert Pattinson in it with the red light, which looked pretty cool and epic. And now we've also had actual leaks from the set of an actual person riding a motorcycle, getting a better view, a better idea of what the suit looks like in full, and also what some of the stunts might look like. So what are your thoughts? Do you like the suit? Because there's been some back and forth about whether the suit's good or not.
Yeah, I made a video with my first thoughts. Overall, I like the direction they're going. I think if you're going for that film noir, real world version of Batman, the suit looks like a suit a guy could build, right? It doesn't look like it's made out of spandex and it has muscle pads in it, which I like the suit itself. It's really my biggest nitpick is the cowl, and it's the little pointy like Amazon style cheap bat ears atop of it that look like there's like cheap little flimsy plastic that look like they want to snap off. That's my nitpick thus far, but overall I like the direction.
Yeah. And I understand, like I've been hearing all the criticisms of the suit because I agree. If there's any big nitpick, it's definitely the ears. But then my argument is that these are photos from paparazzi. These are unfiltered. This is before any type of post-processing, color grading, visual effects adding. And I think once that happens, the ears are not going to seem as odd and are going to flow more in line with what the suit is going to look like. I think that basing it off of just these in the brightness of day with no changing and no coloration whatsoever, I think it's easy for us to see those flaws, because some people are even saying, oh, I don't like how there's shoulder pads to it and all this stuff, but we don't know the story of the suit yet. We don't know how it comes together. Yeah. There's the rumor that the bat symbol's made out of the gun used to shoot his parents, which if that happens to be true, that's awesome. And if we get to see him build that, man, that's going to be a cool scene. So I think that I overall really like the vibe of it, especially based on the test footage with the red, just the red light looked great. Also the sound, I guess was that an original score?
It was, because I got a copyright notice when I did my reaction video using it. So it's from Michael Giacchino. I think that's the composer's name.
Okay.
For me, the score sounds like it's the Empire from Star Wars. Dun 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 dun. Dun, yeah. Dun, 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 dun. Yep. It sounds just like that. But the other thing, it is a stuntman suit. Mm-hmm. I mean, stuntman suits look about half as good as the actual suit. Mm-hmm. And so, I think it looks good. Maybe the ears at a different angle will look slightly better.
Yeah.
And I've heard rumors that the suit might get upgraded at some point in the movie.
That's what I'm hearing too. There were some leaks from Reddit saying that there are possibly 2 suits in the entirety of the film. But also, I would say to anyone that is over, because there are a lot of people that don't like it at all. They just think that it doesn't look good. So talking specifically about the leaked set photos, not the test screening footage, I would say go back and look up paparazzi footage of the original Batman and look at some of the footage of stuntmen in their outfits. I guarantee you that you're going to find a lot of things that don't look right, but you don't see them in the actual film because they're added in post and because you get different angles and different focal points.
That is true. This whole thing about everyone talking about this reminded me. I made a video when they were filming Suicide Squad, and you had Batman on top of a car, and I talked about it and showed video clips. And he has no cape. He looks kind of crappy. He's yeah. Are you looking it up?
No. I'm just.
I heard clicking. But anyway, yeah. It's early. Just save the judgment for the trailer.
Yeah.
Right. As long as he doesn't look like George Clooney in the Batman suit with some nipples, I think everything will be okay.
But I love that. I love that you brought up the cape too, because one of the comments that I saw underneath it was complaining, "There's no cape. How can I like it?" And I had to explain, saying there's never going to be a cape on a stuntman because that's how they die. Because it gets caught in the wheel and they get shredded or pulled off at the very least and get either really injured or possibly die in the process.
Yeah, it just depends. They actually did use a cape in The Dark Knight when he was writing the Batpod.
Yeah.
But originally they didn't want to. But if they went the right speed, it flowed just high enough above the wheel. And then they talked about it in the behind the scenes that they attached the cape with like Velcro. So if it did get yanked on, it just popped right off. But yeah, the cape in like all the Suicide Squad movies and Batman v Superman movies was completely CG'd.
Yeah, because also too, you have the wind factor, and they're often going to be riding at a slower speed for safety.
Yeah, it'll look bad.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, overall, I think both of us are pretty positive towards it, and I would say let's wait until we get an actual trailer before making more judgments.
Yeah. One real quick, I have one more thought.
Go ahead.
When they released some of the first images of Carl Urban as Dredd, the helmet, everyone complained that it looked way too big on his head. And I didn't disagree with that, but in the movie, it looked good.
Yeah. Just goes to show you, sometimes it depends on the angle. Sometimes it just depends on, again, that post-correction, right? That color grading, that CG, whatever CG effects they might have, and those angles. So there's something about a film lens, man. It changes things, right?
It makes things look way better. The gloss helps cover all the flaws.
Yes. As someone that just recently upgraded to that nice 4K camera, man.
I did.
And things look different, but they look beautiful.
Thank you. Yes, it makes me look better than I really am. Actually, it kind of makes me look uglier than I am. It shows the true flaws.
It shows the truth that you never sleep ever.
Yeah, I do not.
All right, so before we end the episode, just looking ahead, any films coming out over the next couple weeks that you're excited for?
No. No, this month is kind of like a dead zone. I am looking forward to A Quiet Place 2, and also there's a movie called The Hunt coming out.
Lord, yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to it for all the wrong reasons. But that's really it for like the next month.
All I'm going to say is when you review that film, be very careful with what you say, because there's a group on both sides that could try to ratio that video to hell.
I'm just all about freedom of creative visions.
Yeah, for sure.
That's all, yeah.
No, I agree. I think that trying to shut down any film for any reason is bad. But yeah, I can't wait to see what direction they actually try and take with it. Is it going to be the politically written film that a lot of us thought it was, or is it going to be political satire? We'll have to just wait and see on that. So you're not excited for The Invisible Man?
Not really. I know it's supposed to be really bad, but it just looks boring. It just, like, if you want to watch The Invisible Man, go watch the Kevin Bacon movie from 20 years ago.
And the only other one that I would bring up would be Onward.
What's Onward?
It's the upcoming Pixar film.
Oh yeah. Okay, I actually was looking forward to that. I sort of you forget they're not marketing that very well as like
Yeah.
the next big Pixar movie, are they?
And yet they've already had screenings for it.
I almost feel like I had one. I just
Yeah.
forgot about it. Yeah, I've heard the reviews are sort of like middle of the road. Like it's okay, it's not bad, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, I'll check it out. I'm not. Yeah, it's not like my number one most anticipated. It's not like the next Incredibles movie or Toy Story 4. But yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, and I would say I'd agree with you that as far as ones that I'm actually looking forward to, Quiet Place 2 is probably at the highest point of that list.
Mhm.
And there's a couple others. I'm seeing now one that was mentioned in your podcast, The Way Back, which is, interesting because of the fact that it's someone struggling with alcoholism,
Yeah.
which is kind of really close to home with him, with
Mhm.
struggling with his addictions. So I'm wondering if people will go see it because, and actually, I actually kind of want to see it too now, just because I'm wondering how much of his own life they try and bring into it. Because sometimes they do that. I remember one of the reasons why I love John Wick so much is because when you found out his past about how he at one point was married or in a committed relationship and that she died, like actual Keanu Reeves in real life,
Yeah.
and that the child I think died too. And then you look at that film and it starts off with him, looking at his wife passing away. There was just something personal about it. And I think it added a new layer to the movie for me. It made me buy more into it.
It is intriguing. He did that interview right before this movie came out, so that must have been his reason for doing the movie.
Yeah.
His alcoholism, Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one there's one live action Disney movie coming out, which is not one of my favorite animated Disney movies by any means. It might be
Yeah.
one of my least favorite, but Mulan.
Oh, yeah.
I'm nothing against it.
Yeah.
I just never as a kid liked the animated movie.
And I did. I love the animated film. I love the music for it. And what hurts me the most is that they are doing this, just like with all the remakes they're doing now, it's purely cash grab. But this one might actually bite them in the ass because their big push with this film was, oh, we're going to get so much money from China, because they kowtowed to China in so many ways with both who they chose for acting and a lot of the marketing behind it. But the coronavirus is likely going
Oh.
to ruin those plans for them. So that film actually could potentially be a flop unless it does well in North America, which early tracking had it around 40 million opening weekend.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Mulan was one of those animated Disney movies. It didn't have like a lot of name recognition with it. It wasn't Lion King. It wasn't Aladdin. It wasn't, so yeah, you're right. I think they were catering to that Chinese market. And I do wonder maybe in like 5-6 months if the coronavirus does clear up, which I'm sure it will.
They only got a month. They only got a month until it's released. So
yeah, but I think what if they just hold a theatrical release for like 4 months and then release it in China? Oh, that, and like every movie that it couldn't be released now, they just
Sonic.
release it. So
It's like Sonic gets there.
Sonic, Mulan, it just all come out 6 months from now.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see that, to follow it, and to see just how much or how little money it actually makes. But I think that for me with Mulan, when you take the music out and you take Mushu out, there's no reason for me to see it.
Yeah, I agree.
So, any last minute things that you want to talk about?
I don't really have. I think we covered it all. My brain is fried.
I bet it is.
Yeah, just thanks for everyone for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast.
Yes, so thank you, everyone. Thank you all to my Patreon and Subscribe members at the $10 and up level. We call those the Keepers of the Bifrost. So thank you so much to my Keepers of the Bifrost and also my Chosen of Valhalla at the $25 level as well. You're the ones that keep me alive. You're the ones that help me breathe, and I hope that you all listen to this podcast. And if you do, please leave some comments below on the post on Patreon, on Subscribe, also on YouTube as well. And also, please consider leaving some Q&A, rather some questions on the next Q&A for the next podcast. Look out for that on all the different places, all those different locations, Patreon, Subscribe, and of course, YouTube memberships now. So thank you all so much. Also, thanks to John, the Flick Pick, for joining me once again. Good sir.
Hey.
Go check him out over on John Flickinger. Go check him out over on the Flick Pick. Again, both great channels, and he's a magical, mystical, beautiful man.
Well, thank you for those kind words.
You're welcome. Hope you all have a wonderful day. You have a hound in the background now to wish you goodbye. And Willow says that she loves you all. So thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.
Bye-bye.